From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
Hey there, SportsLine on your television. Steve Laban here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Tuesday night on News Channel 5. Plus, a lot of football to talk about tonight. Our phone lines will be wide open. 737-7767 is the number. Several interesting topics. We talked a lot last night on Titans Talk about that win in Detroit on Sunday, how the Titans managed to come back and pull a game out where they were losing 15-3 going into the fourth quarter. Get 2 touchdown passes from Marcus Mariota, a sensational grab by Andre Johnson with 1:13 left in the game, and then a clinching interception by Parrish Cox to win the game 16-15, get to 1-1 on the season. We can continue to talk about the Titans and where they go from here. Now the Raiders come into town on Sunday afternoon. What's your expectation level for this game against Oakland on Sunday? What do you think this team will look like back at home? This is a place where the Nissan Stadium has been kind of a house of horrors for this team over the last several years. It has not been a friendly home field environment. So how do you think it'll look on Sunday against the Oakland Raiders? How can this team carry over what they did in Detroit? Do you think they can? Again, phone lines are open, 737-7767. That is the big test now for the Titans, is figuring out how to string some wins together and move forward, because it's been since the end of the 2013 season since the Titans actually won back-to-back football games. The final 2 games of 2013 they won against the Jaguars and then the Texans. Since then, they've never won more than 1 game. It's time for that to change, and they certainly know it, but they also know that they can't just talk about it. They've got to be able to go out and do it. We can talk about that. Talk about the defense maybe a little bit more tonight, because they have been probably overlooked in these first 2 games. The Titans defense has allowed, I should say it this way, the Titans have allowed 40 points overall this season. That's pretty decent. That's a 20-point per game average. That puts you in the top 10 in the league. That's solid. But when you factor in the fact that the Vikings returned 2 offensive turnovers for touchdowns, so they got 2 defensive scores in the game, which led to 14 points, and then the Lions had a safety against the offense on Sunday in Detroit, that's 16 points that the defense is essentially in no way responsible for. So just there, you take it down from 40 points through 2 games to 24 points. Now all of a sudden you're talking about a defense that has allowed 12 points per game. The only team in the league that has been better than that so far is the Seattle Seahawks, who have allowed 19 points through 2 games. If you can go through the year allowing roughly 12 points a game, you're going to be successful. We had a few callers last night talk about the fact that the offense has to pick it up. They had, 16 points in week 1, I think, and 16 points in week 2 now? Yes, it would be nice to put a few more points on the board, but the way the defense has been playing, if you can avoid the catastrophic mistake, which we saw in week 1 with those 2 defensive touchdowns by the Vikings, if you can avoid those types of turnovers where you literally just hand the other team points, you're going to be in every game and have a shot to win, and you're going to win a bunch of those games based off the way this defense is playing right now. The Titans have to avoid key errors, catastrophic mistakes. They had too many penalties on Sunday in Detroit. They got to clean that up. That's been an emphasis of Mike Mularkey ever since he took over in an interim role last year. Turnovers in week 1 killed him. 3 turnovers against the Vikings. 2 of them got returned for scores. They had 1 Sunday, but they also got 1 back Sunday. It came at a critical time. Those are the types of things that winning football teams just cannot do. And the Titans are certainly a work in progress in that category. But on Sunday, we saw a team that stayed even in the turnover battle, made the big play when it counts. And the defense played so well throughout the course of the game that even when the offense was struggling, they stayed within striking distance. They allowed themselves a chance in the fourth quarter to make some plays to win. And guess what? When they got there, the offense got it going. And guys on both sides of the ball made plays to win the game. It's been a long time since we've seen that from a Tennessee Titans football team. It sounded and felt a lot like an old Titans win. They weren't always pretty. They weren't always the most beautiful victories in the Steve McNair and Eddie George days. But they figured out ways to win, and they won a bunch. That's just fine with these guys. Talking to them yesterday after the game in the locker room, after they had watched film and kind of digested it all, they readily said, look, there's no such thing as an ugly victory. You just want to go out there and bust your tail for 60 minutes. Don't make any big mistakes. Play hard. Give yourself a chance to win. And then somebody's got to make a play. And on Sunday, we made a play. Now the question for the Titans is, can they carry that over? As Jason McCourty told me, we figured out how to win Sunday. We figured out how to beat the Lions. Now the question is, can we figure out how to win next Sunday against the Raiders? That's the issue. The Titans have won before, but they've won one game. And then they struggle. They can't figure it out for a while until they win another game. Can they string some wins together? Because to be a winning team, to be a team in the mix in a division or in the mix for a playoff berth in the NFL, you've got to be able to give consistent performances week in and week out. You've got to win multiple games in a row. And that's the challenge for this Titans team. As we laid it out last night, this is a part of the schedule where they can make some hay. You've got a Raiders team that is one of the worst defenses through 2 weeks in the league coming in. Maybe the offense gets going a little bit this week. You've got a couple road games. The Texans, who seem pretty good. Dolphins, who seem pretty bad to this point. And then you come back home for 3 games. Browns, we're struggling. And then 2 divisional games. Colts and Jaguars, who have both really struggled defensively so far this year. This is the time. This is a 6-game stretch where we're going to find out a lot about the Titans. If they're a good team that has a shot to make a march to the playoffs this year or to contend with the Texans in the division, we're going to find that out over the next 6 weeks. If they're not, if this is sort of the same old Titans that picked second and first overall, or at least held those picks the last 2 seasons, we're going to find that out too. So we'll see. Where do they go from here? Can they handle the prosperity and come back with the same chip and the same mindset to battle tough this weekend and figure out a way to win when the game's on the line? 737-7767. We want to hear from you tonight on what you think about the Titans moving forward. We'll talk much more about the Titans as the show progresses. Maybe we'll hear from some Titans players as well. Also today, on our website, newschannel5.com, posted my weekly NFL power rankings. I do just the top 5 teams in the league. I think the teams that are the most competitive threats to win their conference, get to the Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl right now. And if you look at those power rankings on newschannel5.com or on my Twitter, at Steve Lehman, I've got the Steelers number 1. And I had the Steelers number 1 because I had them there to start the year. But also, this is a team that has shown the ability to have a dynamic offense. Beat the Bengals on Sunday 24-16. Ben Roethlisberger throws for 259 yards. He throws 3 touchdowns in that game, and not one of them went to Antonio Brown. He's the most unguardable wide receiver in the league. And on Sunday, the Steelers went other places for their points. they've got weapons. And just think, Martavis Bryant isn't even playing this year. Le'Veon Bell isn't playing right now. D'Angelo Williams had 94 yards rushing on 32 carries. Really helped them control the clock in the second half of that game. To me, the offense of the Steelers, which has looked really good through the first couple of weeks, and all through the preseason as well, frankly. The offense of the Steelers, to me, is the best unit in football right now. And for that, I think they've got a great shot to win the AFC. I've also been, my second team, although this could be changing Thursday night against the Texans, my second team right now is the New England Patriots. I have them second in the power rankings because of what they've been able to do in the first 2 weeks of the year. I think their win on Sunday night at Arizona in Week 1 was incredibly impressive, especially when you consider the fact that Tom Brady's out till Week 5 because of the Deflategate suspension. Jimmy Garoppolo has stepped right in and looked Brady-esque. They haven't missed him to this point. The offense was clicking on all cylinders against what should be a pretty good Arizona defense, and then they came back and just ran through Miami. Now, the downside is Garoppolo seemed to severely injure that shoulder of his, could be out for significant time, which means Jacoby Brissett is stepping in on Thursday night against the Texans. How will that rookie do? He's thrown 9 passes in the NFL. How will he do against that fierce front line? I think we'll obviously see, but here's the thing. We've seen enough from Garoppolo now, and he's gotten them halfway through the Brady suspension, that when Tom Brady comes back, I don't see any reason not to think that this is a team that is going to win the AFC East again. And if they win the AFC East, they're obviously right there in the AFC playoff picture. To me, the third team sticking in the AFC is the Broncos. They haven't been pretty to this point, but they've beaten what I think most people believe are 2 pretty good football teams. And the Panthers, who were in the Super Bowl last year, in that Super Bowl 50 rematch, they were able to beat them in Week 1, hold down Cam Newton and that explosive offense. And then this past week, they just totally bottled up Andrew Luck and the Colts. Couple defensive touchdowns helped them put it away in a 34-20 victory. I don't love the offense. I'm not a believer in Trevor Siemian as a starting quarterback necessarily in the NFL. I would have issues picking them to win the AFC. But let's face it, at the end of last year, whether it was Brock Osweiler or when Peyton Manning came back, they weren't getting a ton out of the quarterback position. That was a defense that did the job last year for them. I think they can ride that defense a long way again this year. I think they could possibly win the AFC West. Right now, they look that good on defense that they can get that done. My 4th and 5th teams in the power rankings come from the NFC. We will get to those picks. Plus, where would the Titans be? I'll give you where the Titans are in my power rankings after the win Sunday in Detroit. On the other side of this break, we'll fill out the rest. We got Steelers, Patriots, Broncos from the AFC. We'll get to my top NFC teams to round out my top 5, and then tell you where the Titans are coming up after this break. Plus more of your phone calls. Lines are wide open if you'd like to get in on the discussion tonight. 737-7767 is the number. Stay tuned. More SportsLine on the way right after this.